Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It is June 17th, 2016, and here's a look at our top stories.
Tonight, former director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, says Donald Trump is aiding and abetting terrorists.
Restricting Muslims from coming into this country, doing surveillance on Muslim mosques is basically aiding and abetting the enemy.
Panetta was referring to Trump's citing of a story that outlines how the Obama administration was actually supporting al-Qaeda. Then, attention mainstream media. The Orlando shooter did not use an AR-15. Plus, Alex Jones breaks down Barack Obama's gun regulation speech. All that plus much more up next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
I'd like to start off tonight by playing the blame game. And we'll get to the Orlando shooter here in a moment, but just in general, when we talk about terrorist attacks, whether it's San Bernardino, Orlando, the Paris attacks, Brussels, on down the line, Charlie Hebdo, of course, we know about that. Who's to blame for this? And now, while some people say a particular religion or a particular party, and there are arguments for those, but just in general, why can we not blame the person or persons who actually pulled the triggers, made the bombs, or did whatever the terrorist activity may be? Because if you go on social media, there's this very large section of people who want to blame everybody except the shooter. They want to blame what he shot with. They want to blame the knife. They want to blame society as a whole, in general, persecuting this or that group. But at the end of the day, many other people go to those same types of persecutions and they don't choose to shoot up a bar or kill their coworkers or go kill people who work at a newspaper. And now we see that the CIA, as well as many other people, are blaming Donald Trump for aiding and abetting terrorists, which I think is completely ridiculous. And these are the words of Leon Panetta. He is not only accusing the president of the United States of treason and collaborating with the enemy. Well, I think dropping grenades to him is pretty collaborating, but in many ways, what he's saying about restricting Muslims from coming into the country, doing surveillance on Muslim mosques, is basically aiding and abetting the enemy at a time we should be unifying and working with the Muslim community. Now, as I already said, they're airdropping grenades to groups like ISIS. They continue to train al-Qaeda jihadis. We've seen the hashtag I Did Not Join campaign many years ago where people were saying, I don't want to fight along al-Qaeda Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday be told I have to go fight them in Syria. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But also, when you say some of the things he did say, like possibly surveilling Muslim mosques, I don't agree with that. But at the same time, that's not aiding and abetting the enemy, arming the enemy as they've continued to do for many years, going back to previous administrations when we actually had our troops over in Afghanistan guarding the poppy fields. We've shown you that footage several times. Geraldo talking to the sergeant or whoever the commander was, and he says, oh, why are you doing this? He was like, well, we don't like doing this. It grinds in our gut. But this is their culture. We have to put up with it. That's aiding and abetting the enemy. And of course, don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. I'm not blaming the troops for that. I'm blaming the people who gave the orders. And it's not just the CIA here, whether it's college professors or the mainstream media, everybody's jumping in to dogpile on Donald Trump. And you guys know how I feel about Donald Trump. I'm not a Trumper, but I think it's asinine to continue to blame a man for actions that he had nothing to do with. I go out to these rallies and I see people, they blame Donald Trump for everything. They blame him for a student loan debt. And I ask them, did you go to Trump University? No. Then how is your student loan the problem of a guy who got into politics a year ago? That makes absolutely no sense. It's the same thing when you talk about war or attacks or the economy or anything else. These issues, when I'm talking to the 20-somethings, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, these issues that have been issues for your entire lifetime, you're blaming on a guy who got into politics a year ago. How could that possibly make sense in your mind? But once again, you're dealing with the mind. You've seen some of these videos we posted. You're not always dealing with the most logical people when you go out to these Trump rallies and you're talking to some of these anti-Trumpers. But to get back on the gun issue, while many people are blaming Trump, they're blaming the gun, they're blaming the AR-15 or what resembles AR-15. I'll talk about that in just one second. Howard Stern, the king of the liberals, actually has enough sense to say it's not the fault of the gun, it's the fault of the person. And this is what he had to say. I'm so upset about Orlando and what went down, Stern said. But I can't believe these people would come out afterward and their answer to Orlando is to take away guns from the public. It is effing mind-blowing to me. And he went on to make the assembly talking about sheeps and wolves. And he says, if you're a sheep, you expect to be targeted by predators. You expect the wolves to come after you. That's why you have the shepherd there. But if you don't have the shepherd there, what if somebody just came up to you and gave you a pistol or some type of firearm and you were able to combat against the faster, stronger, sharper teeth wolves? Or the wolves may get to a point where they start to leave you alone. And that's the same reason why you have the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution. While people will tell you it's about duck hunting and shooting targets and, keeping a shotgun in your closet in case somebody breaks into your house at 3 in the morning. Yes, it is all those things, but it's also for your personal protection when you're out in the street, regardless of what the Ninth Circuit of California may think about it. No, it says shall not be infringed. You have the right to bear arms legally, as long as you're not carrying in a manner calculated to cause alarm. I mean, you're not waving your gun all around and shooting up in the air like some drunken Yosemite Sam character. You have the right to defend yourself. And when many people come after these shootings and they say, Americans want to ban guns, I'm like, oh, really? Go look every time there's a shooting, massive gun sales. You can't go buy an AR-15 after an AR-15 attack or AK-47 after an AK-47 attack. And it's not because these people are being morbid or they're trying to, dance in the graves of the people who passed away. They realize that it was an individual, not a tool, that committed these crimes. I have a shotgun in my closet. It's never killed anybody. I hope it never will kill anybody. It's there in case I need it for personal protection. It's the same thing if you have an AR-15 or any number of other firearms. And as we're talking about the AR-15, this is a story that broke earlier this week, but it didn't get all that much attention, so I wanted to reiterate it. And this is the fact that the gun used by the Orlando shooter was not an AR-15, despite innumerable false media reports. And this is according to bearingarms.com. The rifle used by the Islamist terrorist in Orlando was instead a 6-hour MCX carbine, a modular multi-caliber rifle system, meaning that basically you can swap out the barrel for different calibers. But we'll continue in the article, and you can see numerous people who decided to come after the wicked devil AR-15. AR-15 rifle used in Orlando massacre has a bloody pedigree. It wasn't a AR-15. Why the AR-15 is the mass shooter's go-to weapon. It was not an AR-15. The AR-15 used in Orlando's shooting is America's most popular rifle, as if it's something wrong to have a popular rifle in the United States of America. Now, I read the op-ed piece of the guy who said he got PTSD from shooting the AR-15, and people have different views on that. I'm not so much going to attack the guy personally. I'm just going to say my views of shooting an AR-15. When I shoot an AR-15, it wasn't like holding a rocket launcher or a grenade launcher, whatever the guy may have said, in my personal opinion. It was a relatively light, very accurate, medium range for even somebody who is a very novice shooter. Didn't have a lot of kickback, easy to operate. I thought it was a very fine choice. Now, once again, I personally wouldn't use a rifle like that for home defense, but each his own. If you go out to the range, it's a great gun for that. But they want you to think this is just the most wicked gun on the face of the earth. It's for battlefield conditions. Now, what you have to understand that a lot of people think anytime they see an AR-15 or an AK-47, they automatically assume that it is fully automatic. I was having a conversation with somebody not too long ago. They showed me a picture of something from a distance, like it was an AR-15 or whatever it was. And they said, is this a fully automatic rifle? And I was like, bro, from this distance, not being able to clearly see the rifle, just seeing the general shape, I cannot tell you whether it's a fully automatic. Now, if it's a soldier carrying it, yeah, it's a good chance it's a fully automatic, but somebody at a gun shop or, some guy out hunting, I can't tell you, because there's a selector switch on the side that allows you to shoot fully automatic or semi-automatic or, burst rounds, 3-round burst or whatever else. So it's not what they want you to believe in the media, that every time they see somebody at a gun show buying a gun, oh, it's a fully automatic. Like, no, it's not a fully automatic. More likely, it's not a fully automatic. And with that, they say, well, you can convert it into a fully automatic. I'm like, yeah, you can, but it's easier to press down your gas pedal and convert your car into a weapon than it is to convert an AR-15 from a semi-automatic to a fully automatic. And, those comparisons go on and on. So just something for you to know before the weekend hits, it was not an AR-15 rifle. Now, this is brought up, talks about background checks. Did we do enough? Do we have the background checks? Whatever else, on and on, FBI investigations, all this. And a lot of people said that there was no way to predict that this guy would do these things, even though he was radicalized by his father and He was hanging out at the gay bar before he shot it up. But now we see this gun store owner. We called the FBI and warned them about the Orlando shooter. And this is according to CBS News. And the co-owner of Lotus Gun Works said Thursday his workers had a gut feeling about Mateen when he came into the store 4 or 5 weeks ago. Mateen asked for level 3 body armor, according to Abel. He's the co-owner, but was told the store didn't carry it. He made a phone call and spoke in Arabic before asking for bulk ammunition, but the employees did not sell it to him. And the co-owner said, we contacted the FBI direct after Mateen left the store, but he did not elaborate on how the investigators responded to that call. So once again, you have a guy who went through multiple background checks. He had a security officer's license, if I do believe, as well as the background checks he went to purchase the firearms. He was tipped off to the FBI. He had multiple investigations by the FBI. The guy went through all the legal processes, and he still was able to get a firearm and go out and kill people. So I don't understand how more background checks would have made this bad guy go away. I don't understand how banning fully automatic rifles, which are already banned unless you have a Class 3 license, would have made this thing go away. And that's always the thing. We need to ban these fully automatic rifles. I'm like, no, I cannot go to the gun store right now and buy a fully automatic rifle without a Class 3 license. And I don't have one, as a matter of fact. You also need a similar thing if you want to go buy a suppressor, or commonly referred to as a silencer. And someone's like, why do you want a silencer? Well, your silencer makes your gun more accurate. For all you liberals who say, well, I don't think gun owners are accurate enough, why would you take away a tool that makes the gun more accurate? But once again, that is the liberal logic. So yes, he was tipped off to the FBI, and for all the background checks and the FBI investigations and whatever else surrounded this guy, he was still able to commit this evil, heinous act, and all the background and checks in the world did not stop that. But it has not stopped the Democrats from coming after the guns once again. And now we see that this is a Senate filibuster staged by Chris Murphy of Connecticut. California Democrat Dianne Feinstein's due process busting terror watch list gun legislation appears doomed despite support by the Obama administration and the Justice Department. It is uncertain if Feinstein's bill and competing legislation authored by Senator John Cornyn will receive the 60 votes required unless a deal is reached, and they are scheduled to vote Monday. Feinstein's bill would suspend not only the Second Amendment, but also the Fourth and Sixth. Cornyn's version of the legislation would allow the government to put a gun purchase on hold for 72 hours. And just in case you forgot, we've shown the clip a million times, but Dianne Feinstein saying if she had the votes, she would take away every gun in the United States of America. Meanwhile, she has her concealed carry license. She works in a building full of armed police officers on site who can respond to any situation if she needed help. But once again, she does not want you to have the means to defend yourself, and that's just how these people continue to operate. Now, to transition to a completely different type of crime, we often hear the phrase, I was just following orders, I was just doing my job. Well, that's not really flying anymore, because we see this, a guilty verdict for a 94-year-old Auschwitz Nazi guard. And the former SS sergeant who served as a guard at Auschwitz has been found guilty of more than 170,000 counts of accessory to murder on allegations that he helped the Nazi death camp kill more than 1.1 million Jews and others. He said he was ashamed and he was aware Jews were being killed, but did nothing to try to stop it. So this is a good lesson for people to learn, not only that you will have guilt later on in life. I mean, the guy's 94 years old. He still feels guilty about this, but also that your crimes will catch up to you. Sooner or later, God will cut you down. And that's exactly what this guy is feeling. And I hope this would be a lesson to people who are involved in government. Of course, you know, not too many stories nowadays about putting people in ovens, but there's plenty of tyranny going on in the government, but people are starting to push back from this. And we see this story right here. Dozens of State Department officials just revolted against Obama's Syria policy. At least 51 mid to high level State Department officials have signed a dissent channel cable breaking with President Obama's policy on Syria and calling for U.S. airstrikes on the regime of Syrian President Bashar Assad. The cable was provided to several news outlets on Thursday, including the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. But the point about this is that people are saying, like, no, enough is enough. As I mentioned earlier, people in the military saying hashtag I did not join, referring to the situation in Syria. And of course, we're not saying Assad's a good guy. We're not cheerleading for anything like that. But you have to look at what happened in Libya. You know, we came, we saw, he died. Are the American people any safer now that